have read and listened to so many interpretations of that section, some of which I consider partisan. But I of the view that the key word there is "and." Says the 36 states of the Federation and FCT Abuja. When you look at the definition of "and," it means something in addition to or apart from, which to me presupposes that apart from having 25% in 24 states, you must also score 25% in Abuja. And there are so many authorities on this point that had interpreted the word "and." I'm also not unmindful of the cases of Buhari and INEC being bandied around. But you will discover in that case that the issue of whether now President Buhari scored 25% in Abuja never arose. They were only looking at the status of Abuja vis the administrative structure. I'm also aware of the Bakari and Ogundima and Bakari case, which some people also had been throwing around. In that particular one, too, they were only looking at the administrative structure which Section 299 created and which made Abuja an administrative center as it was intended to be from the beginning. So to now read Section 299 into 1342B, in my own view, is expanding or imputing into what is not in Section 1342B into it. So since the words are very clear, we use the literal rule of interpretation. And since the latter part of that provision specifically mentioned Abuja, it means you construe it in such a way as to exclude the 36 states earlier mentioned. So my own position, subject to what the court eventually decide, is that you will need the 25% in Abuja in addition to scoring 25% in 24 states.
But what about the argument that it was not the intention of the drafters of the Constitution for Abuja to have a special status?
I don't subscribe to that perspective as well. As far as I'm concerned, Abuja has not been given any special status by virtue of Section 1342B. We have similar provisions in the 1979 Constitution, but they did not include Abuja. We have similar provisions in the 1989 Constitution. It also did not mention Abuja. However, you will see that because of the 12th to 3rd crisis, which the Section 126 of the 1979 Constitution threw up, they tried to cure it in the 1989 Constitution by saying that in a situation where there is a fraction, as we had in 79 in Kano in 79, that where there is a fraction, it will be appropriated to the next nearest figure. You could see that the intent of the drafters of that particular section was to cure the crisis that arose from the interpretation of the 1979 version. In this instance, as at the time the 1999 Constitution was done, the Federal Capital Territory had already been moved to Abuja. Under the 1989 and 79 constitutions, the Federal Capital Territory was still in Lagos. And of course, Lagos was also listed as one of the states of the Federation. However, by the time the 1999 Constitution came into being, Lagos had ceased to be the Federal Capital Territory. It has now become Abuja. So there is a need to include it, not to create a special status. It was just an inclusion. To include it and expand the previous similar provisions in 1979 and 1989. to include Abuja. And let me give you this. Go to the definition sections of the Constitution where the states were listed. Abuja is not listed as a state. So, for all intents and purposes, I can't think and I won't subscribe to the view that the drafters of that section intend Abuja to be read together with the other 36 states.
Anyway, like you said, we'll wait for the courts to decide on that. But one other issue that the presidential and national assembly elections threw up is the issue of the electronic transmission of results from the polling units directly to the INEC's IREV. Looking at the provisions of the Electoral Act, what effects do you think that delayed transmission will have?
As a matter of fact, I am unable to see how the delay has occasioned any injustice from my perspective and from where I voted. But I've also come to hear and read of complaints of situations where those results were not uploaded at the polling unit. I've also read, I believe it is true, the comment attributed to the INEC chairman that it is not compulsory that those results be uploaded at the polling unit. I am unable to agree with them because my own view about Section 61 of the Electoral Act is very clear, though it also now gives the Commission the liberty to prescribe the mode of transmission. But in doing that, the Commission will also have to be guided by its own guidelines. If you read Section 34 to 38 of that guideline, it clearly states the mode. And I don't think the chairman would be right to say that it allows them to do things which are outside that Section 34 to 37 of their guideline. Because when you read that section clearly, you will see that it says, upon the conclusion of poll, the presiding officer will do this, it will do this, it will do this. But where it is not possible, he will now use the manual transmission and take it to the collation center. Okay? Now, in doing that, you now have to give us a report. I'm talking as a litigation lawyer now. For you to say, factually, you were unable to do it because of so reason, I must see the report from the presiding officer of that particular unit, which says, oh, either Beavers didn't work, or the network was bad, or for some security reasons I could not do what I've been asked to do by the guideline. Unfortunately, that's not the result that we have. So for me, it will be too adventurous to subscribe to that view that it is not necessary to post or upload your results at the. After all, what is the essence of the Beavers? And I'm sure one of the things they sold to us when we were pushing the idea of the Beavers is that it allows for electronic transmission of results. And wherever you are, so long as you can key into the IREV portal, you'll be able to assess the result from each polling unit. So that's why I find it difficult to subscribe to his position.
But when you talk in terms of the law, would you say that there's been substantial compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act?
I think INEC still owe us more explanation that they have done. Because as at Sunday, like about 6 p.m. and up till about 9 p.m., 26th, I had the chairman in one of his media briefings saying that out of the 173 or 177, 76,000 polling units where elections were conducted, they've only been able to upload 65,000 polling units. And for that reason, they are experiencing some glitch. Okay? However, from the proceeding, one could see that they were nearly about 1/4 through with the result as at Sunday. So question, what happened to the remaining 100 and something thousand polling units results that were unable to be loaded onto the portal? So it is for the chairman.
They actually are subsequent. Some of them are subsequently uploaded.
That was after the declaration had been made. Okay? Now for transparency and for credibility, I think before that declaration, everybody should have had access to the results so that it will be clear, even to all doubting Thomases, that INEC was open and was available, accessible. It is not just enough to conclude and expect people to believe you, especially in such a technical society as we have, where trust is a big issue, that because you had that glitch and you are unable to upload at that particular moment, therefore what you had done should be accepted. There will still be that doubt, and I'm sure that was the major focal point for the international observers, because I read the report from the EU and I read the report from the AU team as well. That was their focal point, that transparency, clarity is an issue. Because as a matter of fact, nobody had access to those servers. You are the only person who has access to it. You are the only person who knows what is wrong with it. But because you are a public institution, decency dictates you explain to people, and maybe for a reason you tell them, okay, this is the one we've been able to collate so far, and this is how far we can go. We are having this issue in this area. It may not be their own fault. Maybe they as a result of third-party interference. But hold on, let us hold on to this process. We will try and sort out the issue, and we'll come back in another 3-4 hours. That was not the kind of explanation we had.
Let's move on now. I want to talk about something else that's equally topical. On Thursday, a federal high court judge ordered INEC to allow 2 applicants who went before the courts to be allowed to use their temporary voters card to vote. But INEC, of course, has said that it would appeal that judgment. So what do you make of that order? And what do you think that other persons who have similar issues can benefit from that order?
That temporary voters card was supposed to be temporary. And I think everybody was given sufficient time to go and exchange it for the permanent voters card. I think the temporary voters card was the one used in 2011. So if by now you haven't changed it into your permanent voters card, I don't see how you can hold INEC responsible for it. I'm not holding forth for them. And I'm not saying what the judge decided was wrong. But for me, I do not see the logic. Unless if you are able to show to me how you have been disenfranchised or what particular injury you had suffered.
Finally, Leonard Silk, attention has now shifted to the courts. There are a lot of cases in courts from the fallout of these elections. And some people have said that the judiciary has no business determining winners of elections, because it appears that we now have what some people will call court-appointed winners. What do you make of that?
We should all realize that the judiciary is our last hope. And if by error of commission or omission we destroy that temple, it will be an easy recipe for crisis and chaos. An example is the recent currency swap case. And you see the way the Supreme Court came in to provide a soft landing for the presidency, although unfortunately they didn't seize the advantage. We should realize that the courts are there to administer justice based on facts presented before them. Do you know the reason why they put a blindfold to My Lady of Justice? They are supposed to close their eyes and their ears.
I like that you said they are supposed to.
Yes, they are supposed to close their eyes and their ears so that they can do justice the way they see it, without fear or favor. Now, when you start clustering them with blackmail, smack remarks, they are human beings like you and I. They read papers. They also go online If they don't, their children do.